Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Chrissy Hodges. I am an advocate for OCD and I also am a certified peer support specialist. Myself and my team, we work with people all over the world, supporting them. We can also connect you to referrals and resources that can help you along the way if you're looking for treatment. Peer support is a supplemental support to therapy, or you can get peer support before you go into the treatment or even after, because sometimes having that emotional support after you have treatment can really help, and peer support is the way to go. I'm also the author of Pure OCD. This is a memoir about my experience of living with sexual intrusive thoughts, religious scrupulosity, and all other kinds of stuff. OCD is an app, and they do provide telehealth all over the world, doing ERP. If you are interested in working with their program, you can head on over to treatmyocd.com. Today, I want to talk to you about something that's a little bit more specific, not necessarily theme-based. Oh, and also someone commented my banana wasn't straight the other day. So I straightened it. I did not do that on purpose to torture people. It just happens. Sometimes I knock it and it just moves. Anyway, I wanted to talk to you about something today that's come up a lot with people that I have been supporting, but also something I reflect on in my own life. And it's mentally reviewing, but not in the way that you would mental review for OCD. It's looking back on living with OCD and sometimes feeling sad, sometimes feeling frustrated or embarrassed, humiliated, shame or guilt about the things that we did or said, or the ways we acted when we were surviving OCD. Now, I want to make sure that I'm placing emphasis on the phrase surviving OCD, because this is something that I feel like don't embrace enough in our quest to recovery, or when we're in recovery, even in reflection. We tend to, especially in regards to focusing on the themes of OCD, we tend to look at the experience as, I caused this. This is something that I have done. It's our natural inclination to want to say, I should have been able to stop that. Why did I think this thought in the first place? Stop. OCD is not your fault. Full stop. OCD is not your fault, okay? You did not ask for OCD. OCD happened to you. When we get caught up in the cycle of OCD, we tend to start thinking, well, if only I could stop the thoughts, then this wouldn't happen. And why do I test myself? Meaning doing compulsions to try to see if you're still triggered by them. I must be doing this, and so that's why it's still here. No. You did your best to survive this illness until you knew what it was, which takes people years, or you got effective treatment that could help you learn to manage it, or you found medication that could help. You were just surviving until then. Believe it or not, you can believe me or not, but I'm right. So what I wanted to talk to you about today is when you didn't know it was OCD, or when you did know it was OCD and you didn't know how to manage it effectively. We did things to just survive. And when you're in that mindset, sometimes you go out of your, I don't want to say morals and values, because that's not right. But you just go out of like the space that you would normally operate in without having OCD. I'm going to give you an example. I am a ruminator, as many of you probably are too, and for a long time in my 20s and into my 30s, this is after treatment too, by the way. I had adopted the idea that if I could just run as far away from OCD as I could after treatment, that it would never impact me again. Wrong. So instead of being mindful that OCD is part of my life, it was out of control and I didn't even know it. Because when it's a different theme than I had before, I have trouble recognizing it, right? Because it feels like my actual real experience. Anyway. So in my 20s and 30s, one of the things that I reflect back on with so much shame is my inability to control my need for reassurance, the amount of time I ruminated and would pull people into my rumination. I don't know how anyone tolerated me in my 20s, to be frank. I hurt a lot of people. Friendships didn't last, and it was always this, I couldn't even recognize what I was actually doing, which was, making other people part of my experience, and they didn't want to be. And I didn't know how to control that. So I have a lot of shame about that. Another thing that I did, that I reflect on and just think, oh God, is when I was really surviving OCD in my teens. I did not know what it was. I had sexual orientation OCD, combined with religious scrupulosity, which was just such a weird combination, because I would worry that if I did anything that was a sin, that God would punish me. But at the same time, I had all of these, I was a teen exploring hormones and, sexual stuff. But then there was this barrier, which was a compulsion of like, you can't do that or else. And so one of the things that would help me feel like, the sexual orientation OCD wasn't real was to feel kind of the endorphins around having a crush on someone or making out or, getting that rush of feeling excitement about another guy, right? And so I used people. I wasn't authentic in relationships sometimes just to get those needs met because the anxiety was so high. Meaning, like, if I started to get intrusive thoughts while I was with, a boyfriend or something, I would think, oh my God, then I need to find someone else and I need to just dump this person. And it was awful, right? I look back and think, I was such a little shit. And I did that in my 20s too. Not in regards to sexual orientation OCD, but all kinds of other stuff. I reflect back on that behavior and I just think, wow. And I get that cringe, but I wanted to share with you today that you probably have those things. What did you do? What did you say? How did you pull other people into your symptoms when you were just surviving OCD? I want to tell you this. You did the only thing that you knew to manage this massive, painful illness that is all consuming. And I want you to have some compassion for yourself for doing that. Because that's what we do as humans. That's what we do. We need to survive. And you didn't know. Or maybe you did know, but you just had to do things anyway. People aren't going to understand what it's like to have OCD. And especially not what it's like to have some of these themes that are just so bizarre that other people just kind of take for granted, right? I know that I'm not a murderer. I know that I'm, not attracted to a family member or a dog, or whatever else. And we get stuck on these things. People aren't going to understand that. And so, along the lines, we might lose people. We might, make people feel bad or pull people in, confession, that's a compulsion. I just want you to know that you can get to a place where you don't feel bad about that because you are doing the best that you could to survive an illness that brings us to our knees. Okay? I sometimes, I mean, at this point, I think I can cultivate self-compassion and self-love. I look at my whole experience with OCD and I say, if it wasn't for all of that, I wouldn't be in this position right now talking to you, being able to support people all over the world and helping them in their own journey. But wow, if I could go back and do some things differently, I try to avoid getting into that rut because I did the best I could. And I was really sick at times in my symptoms. And I think at times also probably met criteria for personality disorder, when I was completely emotionally dysregulated for a long period of time. So I want to assure you that whatever you need to do, and even in the future when you feel yourself doing these things and you're just trying to survive, it's okay. It's okay. You're not a bad person. You're in a lot of times we don't have a choice. When anxiety is so high, we just have to do what we have to do sometimes to get through it. None of us are going to have this perfect track record with OCD. Don't we wish that we had it? Boom, this happened. I found out this. I got treatment. But I do want to normalize for you. Most people can look back and think cringeworthy things that they did while surviving this illness. You are not alone in this. What can help is peer support. It's helped me. I've received peer support for a lot of the stuff that I went through. And it just helps to know, it helps to get it out loud, it helps to know that you're not alone. So if you are interested, head on over to chrissyhodges.com. There's myself, and I have another peer supporter in my practice, and we can help you with whatever you're struggling with. I do want to say, no matter what you've been through, no matter what you had to do to survive this illness, it does not mean that you aren't deserving or worthy of happiness and recovery. So keep working, keep growing. That's what recovery is. That's what life is, right? Continuing to work, continuing to improve, and continuing to see that we are worthy of that self-love and self-compassion no matter what we've been through. I'm here for you. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I look forward to seeing you next time.